Hey everyone, welcome to On Tap. I'm Chris, and I'm not an expert, just a guy who enjoys good beer. Now let's talk about a brewery you may have heard of, the Modelo Brewery, otherwise known as possibly the most famous Mexican brewery of all time. Let's get to the episode. Modelo is named after the company that makes it, Grupo Modelo, or the Modelo Group. The Modelo Group, originally known as the Cerveceria Modelo, or Modelo Brewery, was founded in 1925 in Mexico City, where it's still based, by a couple of Mexican businessmen that included Don Pablo Diaz Fernandez and Felix Aramburu Zavala. Actually, interestingly, Aramburu Zavala's daughter, Maria Asuncion, ended up inheriting the company, which turned her into a billionaire. She is still alive and is currently the 6th richest person in all of Mexico and the 2nd richest woman in all of Mexico. Grupo Modelo, from the start, like many breweries, did have its particular influence from German immigrants, in this case Austrians who moved to Mexico in the 1920s. We can see this in the Modelo Negra beer, which is one of their best-selling dark beers, or rather their best-selling dark beer, singular, which was a sort of dunkel style beer, and we will be trying it in this episode. I talked a bit about the Modelo Group in the Corona episode, linked down below, but just to get a bit more into it, basically the Modelo Group ended up becoming the largest brewery in all of Mexico, and through their flagship Modelo and Corona brands, ended up dominating beer in Mexico. By the early 2000s, something like 60% of all beer consumed in Mexico was produced by Grupo Modelo. Well, the company ended up producing different brands of beer and is most well known for their Corona brand. Technically, the Modelo beers were always sort of officially, you could say, the flagship beers of the company, and they're still extremely popular. Modelo Especial is the 2nd most imported beer into the United States, selling 23 million cases a year, and that's after Corona, which is another Grupo Modelo brand. In some ways, the Modelo Group has really helped Mexico as a country sort of punch above its weight in terms of its cultural footprint in the world of beer around the world. Because get this, Mexico is the largest exporter of beer on planet Earth. It's not the United States, it's Mexico. And they knocked the Netherlands, so basically Heineken, off the list from number 1 in 2003. And that's actually also kind of funny, like I wouldn't have ever thought that the Netherlands was the largest beer exporter in the world up until 2003, and then it became Mexico. But anyway, almost 80% of all the beer imported into the United States comes from Mexico, and a huge reason for that is honestly Grupo Modelo. Though as of 2013, the company is now an AB InBev subsidiary, so, there you go. And quick shout out, the company does have a bunch of dishes listed on its website that involve Modelo beer, as well as a number of Modelo beer cocktails, some of which I definitely have to try. Anyway, let's get to today's lineup. So very quickly, to profile the beers we will be trying, Modelo Especial. This is a classic 4.4% ABV lager and the flagship of the Modelo brand of beers. Yep, it's a lager. Modelo Negra. Modelo Negra, meaning black Modelo, is a 5.4% ABV dunkel-style dark beer, dunkel meaning dark in German, and this is arguably the 2nd most popular beer after the Modelo Especial. Modelo Oro. Oro, meaning gold in Spanish, this is the company's light beer. I don't want to try it. Damn it, I have to. All in the name of YouTube edutainment. Helada. This is a michelada style beer. Also, a quick side note, and helada is not to be confused with helado, meaning ice cream in Spanish, though they both derive from the same word hielo, meaning ice. And a michelada is basically sort of like the beer version of a Bloody Mary, where instead of vodka, you have beer, as in the primary ingredients are beer and tomato juice, along with usually lime and salt. Now you might think we're done, but wait, there are also 4 more helada specialty flavors that we'll be trying. These include limón y sal, lime and salt, piña picante, spicy pineapple, naranja picosa, spicy orange, mango y chile, mango and chili. Now, there supposedly were other Modelo beers that existed in the past, but we're pretty much just going to be trying beers that the company lists on its website. And no, Aguas Frescas is not beer, though I'd like to try those in the future. All right, let's get to tasting. So, let's get to the tasting process of the episode. Starting up, we have Modelo Especial, the classic Modelo flagship lager. Yep, Pretty much looks like lager, not too much of a head, pretty thin. Doesn't really smell like anything. It's got a little, really slight, sort of sharp lager beer smell, but it's pretty minor. This is sort of in this category of acceptable, but definitely on the thinner side. This is a pretty generic beer. There's not really much going on here. It has, I'd say, even a slightly thinner body than the most typical kind of generic table beer. Think of a Heineken or a Stella or a Beck's. Those are always my go-to, but still nonetheless. And I think it lacks a little bit of the brightness of something like a Corona or a sort of a very characteristic, I think of sort of Mexican beer. It's just fine. So let's see how this one compares to some of the others. Next up, why don't we go with Modelo Negra, the Dunkel style dark beer, and arguably the second most popular Modelo beer after the Modelo Especial. Now, one thing I will say from the color is that this is certainly not a super dark beer or like a black beer. Certainly Dunkel beers don't have to be sort of midnight black in color. They don't have to be even super dark brown. Sometimes they can be, more of almost like a middle brown, almost like an amber color. And that's sort of what this is. It's sort of holding it up to the light here, it's sort of sort of an ambery, middle brown, on the lighter brown side, I think, for beer. Certainly there's plenty of light getting through this. It's not dark or viscous in any way. I mean, not expecting it to be, but still. Smell very little here as well, kind of like with the Modelo Especial. Take a taste. Well, it certainly has a little bit more body to it, but like with and that's still not a lot. This is a pretty, in the scheme of things, lighter beer, but I think relative to the Modelo Especial, not getting much here in the way of flavor, I mean, kind of at all. It's really just a slightly higher ABV and darker version of this beer, which, gives it a little bit better of a feel in the palate, but it's kind of about it. Really not obvious flavor notes on this beer. So next up, we have Modelo Oro, the light beer. I'm curious to see how this stacks up compared to the other two. That's plenty. I don't have particularly high hopes here, but you know what? We're gonna give it a try nonetheless. Actually, this has got a better head on it than either of these other two. A little bit fluffy, and very pale in color. Smells like literally nothing. Let's see. And it kind of tastes like nothing, honestly. No outright bad sort of low-grade beer flavor. I've described it before as almost like a sour flavor, this off-putting kind of sour flavor, but this really tastes like nothing. It has a very light body, obviously it's light beer, lighter than these two, almost no flavor at all. I mean, this is really just a beverage that you drink that has alcohol in it, and there's almost nothing else I can say about this. I will say it isn't the worst light beer that I've ever had, not that I've had a lot of light beers, but of the few that I have. The fact that it doesn't have anything nasty about it at least gives it points for light beer. That's about all I could say. It's certainly better than a Corona Light. It's probably in a similar category to like a Corona Premier, something like that. So here's where I think it gets a little interesting, because we are going to try a michelada and we're going to try some flavored gelada beers. Let's kick it off with the michelada. So here we go, Gelada Especial. This is a michelada style of beer, meaning you've got beer, tomato juice, and maybe some flavorings of lime and salt, and ooh, look at that. That's kind of interesting. I almost want to look at this outside of the light actually for a second. It's got an orangey kind of red color to it, like tomato juice, a little bit. I mean, if you hadn't told me that this was a michelada with with tomato, in it. I would say, oh, it looks sort of like kind of like an amber beer, but this smells like tomato juice. This literally smells like tomato juice. Let's see, I'm really curious. You know what? This is crazy, but I kind of like that, actually. That's fun. That tastes like tomato juice and beer, but mixed together in a really interesting way. I mean, I don't have a lot of Bloody Marys. I almost never drink them, not because I don't like them. I rarely go to brunch these days. You know, what with the economy and all this struggling to make ends meet. Sunday brunch seems to be off the table these days, most of the time. Anyway, yeah, tangent over. I do like Bloody Marys, they're good. I don't like vodka, just me, that's a taste thing. But I like tomato juice when it's mixed with other sorts of things, and I really like the tomato juice flavor mixed with the beer here. It's just kind of fun. It's not something I would have ever thought, like, let's take tomato juice and beer and mix it together, but this is kind of cool. I really like this. Good job, Mexico. Way to come up with new and interesting ways for us to drink our beer. I can't believe I'm doing this. I gotta say, I like this more than these other two, because it's interesting. You know, it's not just, yeah, it's a beer and it doesn't really taste like much. It's like, I'm getting some interesting flavors here, and I personally really like the tomato and beer combination. I'm gonna take another taste. Yeah. Call me crazy. Maybe it's just me. Someone else could drink this and think, this is absolutely vile, this is disgusting, what is wrong with you? Personally, I think it's fun. Let's see how it compares to the other gelada flavored beers. So here's where it gets more interesting than it's already gotten after we've had the gelada style gelada. We're gonna have 4 flavored geladas with different sort of mixtures. So first up, with the flavored gelada beers, we have limón y sal, so lime and salt, classic combination of flavors that I think about with, well, tequila, mezcal, sort of lime and salt, classic flavor pairing in Mexican drink, certainly, or do you argue Mexican food as well, really. Nice salpijana, really pale, none of that sort of tomato color, obviously no tomatoes in this. Yep, and this smells like lemon, sort of lemon lime flavor. I wonder, I don't know if you've seen it, link down below. I did the Dos Equis episode where I tasted different sort of Dos Equis beer flavored, or rather different fruit flavored beers. And I wonder if these are gonna be kind of similar. Overall, I did not like those very much. But maybe these are different. So yeah, smells like lemon. It kind of tastes like if you took the Modelo and you dropped a lot of lime juice in it, and you dropped some extra salt in it, and you mixed it all up. That's basically what this tastes like. Certainly points for ingenuity, and definitely more interesting in some ways, I think, than the Modelo Especial. Not sure how much of this I would have. I could imagine maybe getting tired of it after several sips. I mean, I don't even know about a whole can. Let's keep going through the special flavored gelada beers. Next up, we have Naranja Picosa. So spicy orange, a little bit more translucent actually than some of these others. It's certainly a light beer, but it's not as sort of straw yellow. There's maybe a hint of a really light orange color actually to this. It smells like orange too. This smells like a really, really light orange. Not quite orange juice. It's not quite that strong, but this smells like an Orangina in some ways, like a light orange soda. So let's give it a taste. That's kind of interesting. This is like Orangina mixed with beer, and with just a little hint of some spiciness. And actually, I'm getting a little bit more of the spiciness in my palate now that the beers sort of, the flavors have kind of been sitting there for a second. I don't know why I'm finding these kind of intriguing. Not like I'd want to have, I don't even know about a whole can, but sort of, more than a few sips. And that's interesting. That is different, it's unique, it's not something I've ever had before. I kind of like it. This is better than I was expecting it to be. I think that might also be the thing. I was expecting these to be really bad. I mean, maybe I'll be eating my words here in a second, we're not done. But so far, kind of interesting. All right, 2 more left. Picking at random, we have piña picante, spicy pineapple. And this is extraordinarily pale. Almost translucent, very clear. A little bit of a head, but not much. And this smells like pineapple. So let's see how it tastes. This is so interesting. This tastes like pineapple juice mixed with beer. That's with just a little hint of spice. It's got that, with pineapple juice, if you've ever had it, right? It's really sharp and it's really sweet. It's a really sharp, strong, very sweet and like sugary sweet tropical juice, right? But it's also mixed with the feeling of carbonated beer. I'm shocked how well these are staying in competition with at least these two. This is completely the opposite of what I was expecting this to look like. And I'm gonna be shifting these around a bit. So we got one more, let's get it done. So last, but hopefully, possibly not least, we have Gelada Mango y Chile, mango and chili. This also has a sort of a reasonably orangey color, quite ahead on this. It smells like mango. I wonder, what is the verdict gonna be? Yeah, and that tastes like mango. That tastes like mango with some chili thrown in. The chili is maybe a little stronger in this one. Interesting. Still, I think a decent showing from Modelo in terms of mixing in mango fruit juice flavor to beer. Yeah. I can't put my finger on what it is that I'm not quite enjoying it as much as some of these other ones, but this is actually, I was not expecting this episode to be one of the more challenging sort of final assessment videos that I've done. These are completely in the running. These are completely in the running with the Modelo Especial and the Modelo Negra. So yes, I will get back to you after these messages. I'm kidding, there are no messages. And decide what my final assessment is going to look like. So see ya in the conclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, if I can have your attention, it has come to my attention that I have incorrectly been referring to this as lemon and salt because limon actually means lime in Spanish and lemon is limon amarillo. We can also see, I of course didn't notice this because why would I, silly me, that the can is green referring to limes of course. If it were a lemon, the can would be yellow. It's not, it's green, so it's a lime. Limon, lime in Spanish, limon amarillo. Yellow, so the yellow lime, right? Anyway, just wanted to clear that up. So for the rest of this video, while you're watching it, and Chris is very incorrectly referring to this as lemon and salt, he is wrong about that. And the fact that he may have said lime at some point reflects the fact that this is in fact a lime and salt cerveza preparada mix. It is not a lemon and salt mixture. So anyway, just wanted to get that out of the way. Thanks very much. Back to the episode. So, in conclusion, I've got my final assessment. And I will say, this was a bit of an upset. I was expecting at the beginning of this episode that these two beers were gonna be in first and second place, in either order, with no question about that. And everything else just down at the bottom of the table. And while yes, these are a little bit above some of the beers on the table. They are not above all the beers. And in fact, some beers that I do have in first and second place, or tied for first and second, are very much not typical beers. So, well played by Modelo. Let's get into the rundown. In last place, really no question about this, you have Modelo Oro. This literally tastes like nothing. Nothing off-putting, bad, or sour about it, but it is, I would imagine, in sort of this new category of light beers that just taste like absolutely nothing. There is just no flavor in a beer like this. And if you want a light beer that provides you some amount of alcohol consumption with absolutely no flavor of any sort whatsoever, then yeah, go with this. But for me, it's a pass. Now, moving into the sort of specialty helada flavored beers, the Mango y Chile is interesting, and like all of these fruit flavored beers, this does taste like mango juice mixed with chili and beer. The thing is that there's something about that mixture that just doesn't really work. That's what I would say with the Mango y Chile. The mango doesn't work with beer. Interesting experiment, more interesting than nothing, but still, eh. So next, limon y sal, which to clarify is lime and salt. And lime and salt, of course, classic Mexican flavor combination. Interesting beer flavor. Not sure that I would have maybe even a whole can of this. You have to definitely like lime, and you gotta like salt. As I said, this is the kind of drink that would work if it's 1,000,000 degrees outside. It's really hot, probably dry too. Not much outside of that. The Piña Picante, I do like the blend of pineapple juice and beer, and that is what this tastes like. It tastes like pineapple juice and beer. All of these taste like the fruit juice mixed with the beer. All of them taste like that. It's just how well does that mixture happen? Pineapple juice and beer is also interesting, with a slightly sort of more positive, interesting note on that compared to the limon y sal. You got that sharp pineapple-y sweetness, and you got the beer sort of foundation. Same thing, could do one of these. Not sure I'd want to have more than that though. It's a very specific flavor, and you also kind of really need to like pineapple juice to drink something like this. Same thing to the limon y sal, would be refreshing in super hot weather, but also probably want to drink this when it's super hot outside. I'm outside and it's daytime. Then sort of in the middle of the pack, or kind of upper middle of the pack, we have the two more traditional beers, the Modelo Especial and the Modelo Negra. Now, the Modelo Especial is basically just the regular beer version of the Modelo Oro, or rather the Modelo Oro is the light beer version of the Modelo Especial, in that this really does not taste like very much. The only thing that this has over the Modelo Oro is it has the bare minimum requirements of a body that I would consider actual beer and not light beer, and that's about all I could say. This is really, really just mediocre in kind of in every sense of the word. And while yes, this is in the top half of the beers on this table, if I were comparing this to really any other, even just proper lager on the table, this would come up, I believe, very short. And that would be the case too if I were comparing this to other major Mexican lagers on the table. The Modelo Negra, not much more beyond the fact that with a slightly higher ABV, this has just a very slight extra kind of mouthfeel to it compared to the Especial. But it's on the light side. It's not thin, I would say it's not thin, but it's still a very light beer with sort of an amber color. And there are just ever so slight notes of a sort of malty sweetness to this that you don't have with the regular lager. Beyond that though, not much to say here. Again, if this were going up in competition against other sort of dunkel style beers, or honestly even a lot of just other pale lagers, I don't think this would do particularly well. The two biggest surprises of this episode that I really just gotta, tip my hat to, there we go, is the naranja picosa and the sort of michelada. Naranja picosa and the michelada basically just comes down to which fruit do you enjoy more mixed with your beer. Do you like beer mixed with orange juice, or do you like beer mixed with tomato juice? And that's why I've sort of staggered them here, meaning they are move these down a little bit here. They are tied for first place. Personally, I think it's maybe just because of the Bloody Mary concept that's, for me, just an established flavor profile that I think of. I think of vodka and tomato juice, and you drink it at brunch, with your friends. That mixing with beer is also just kind of interesting, but the orange juice and beer combination, which is also, wouldn't have thought about that. I mean, wouldn't have thought about that for all 5 of these, also really works too. These 2 are definitely beers that I could drink the whole thing. I'd say like, yep, give me a can of this, and that works for me. These 3, halfway through, I might be flagging a little bit. So yeah, the fact that this tastes like, I would describe it as Orangina mixed with beer, and this tastes like tomato juice mixed with beer, or a beer Bloody Mary, is pretty cool. And if you do see these, I'd say these 2 specifically, out of all the beers on the table, give them a try and just see what you think. You might hate them, you might find them to be disgusting, you might think, what the hell are you doing, Chris? Why are you recommending these to me? But you know what? They're gonna be different, and I'd like to think they're not gonna be off-putting, certainly relative to other things you might find out there, and they're gonna be more interesting than honestly these 2. Again, these 3 get points for trying, these 2 are just completely generic, these 2 are kind of interesting. That's my assessment. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you would completely rank these differently, if you just absolutely love Mango y Chile, or you're obsessed with Piña Picante, or you'd say, nope, out of all of this, I just want beer that tastes like, I would say almost nothing, Modelo Especial, there you go. But just keep it respectable as always, and I'll see you next time.